Great to see you tonight. We haven't had a chance to talk to you. What's your reaction to the appointment of the special counsel by the Attorney General?
I think it was the right move, although I had urged doing this many months ago in March. But more recently, I thought that because Merrick Garland was apparently not really ready to proceed, that he ought to pull things together and bring indictments. The evidence was clear enough, and I thought appointing a special counsel might delay things. He's clearly found a special counsel who won't delay a thing. He's hitting the ground running. He clearly has enormous experience. He's come right off of the war crimes trials that he's handling in Kosovo. He's been in charge of political corruption trials. He's battle-hardened. He's absolutely ready. And Garland emphasized the need for speed. He's clearly not come back from The Hague in order to preside over the winding up of an unsuccessful investigation. The marching orders he has are to conclude things as quickly as possible. And I take that to mean a very likely set of indictments arising both out of Mar-a-Lago and the attempt to overturn the election.
Well, how complicated would it be, practically speaking, to bring indictments against a former president running for president, and to do it in a timely enough fashion that some aspect of the case won't be bumping right up against a presidential election?
Well, the sooner the better, because the delays that are bound to be part of the former president's strategy will make it bump up against the election. But Merrick Garland is not going to let that deter him at all. He's made that clear. The fact that we have someone who thinks he can protect himself by claiming that he wants to be president, that's all fine. But it's not up to him. Interestingly, he said he doesn't intend to participate in the work of the special counsel. Well, that's nice. No one's asking him. It's not up to him. The special counsel has very broad power. The ultimate decision of whether and when to indict and for which of the many available charges is going to be up to Merrick Garland. But while he's running the entire Justice Department with 115,000 employees, hundreds of investigations all over the world, Garland can't be the person to handle the day-to-day decisions in this investigation and the prosecutions to which it will lead. And they don't need to be run up the totem pole through the bureaucracy of the Department of Justice, because the marching orders of this special counsel are to reach a conclusion as expeditiously and fairly as possible, put it on the Attorney General's desk. The Attorney General, I think, will look at it and have every reason to approve it. So I'm looking at the trials.
You brought up what the former president said. He would not partake in the investigation. Obviously, that isn't his choice. I mean, he is presumably the subject of this investigation, as is quite clear now by the appointment of a special counsel. What do you think his legal strategy will be going forward?
Delay, delay, and delay. That's all he's got going for him. I don't think he has any good defenses. At one point, he said he was going to defend against the charges of mishandling the top secret information by saying that it was no longer top secret. He had thought that he declassified it just by thinking that it was declassified, the telepathy defense. That's not going to get him anywhere. And with respect to the attempt to obstruct the transfer of power to President Biden leading up to the violent insurrection, originally, I think he was going to say, I didn't have much to do with it, I just made a speech. But now we know, as a result of the extraordinary work of the January 6th committee and a great deal else, we know that he was right in the middle of it. He was receiving all of the information. He was encouraging them to be violent at the Capitol. He was basically abandoning his own vice president to the gallows. There really is no good defense for any of it. The only reason he hasn't already been indicted is that Garland is trying, and I know he's always meticulous. When he was my student, he was extremely careful 50 years ago, 45 years ago, I guess. Anyway, he's trying to dot every I, cross every T, and now with the special counsel, I think he's got someone who is going to carry that out, and we'll see.
The Attorney General, no doubt, going to check his report card from 45 years ago. Professor Tribe, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it.